So it's an hour before the session, and one or more of your players send you a message saying they can't make it. Annoying, sure, but it happens. The problem though is that in the last session your group left off at a very important story moment, and you really want all of the players to be there for the next part. You as the DM could just play as their character and fill them in on what happened when they get back. Or you could take a step back and run the other players through something a bit different. Let me tell you a few ways that you can do that. Hey, my name's Cam, welcome back to Rogue's Roll Call. I make videos about Dungeons and Dragons, so if that's your kind of thing then I would love it if you stuck around. So I'm going to tell you about 3 different mini side quests that you can run over the course of a single session for each of them. They can work great as a one-shot, especially for new players, or you could just use them as filler session if you have one or more of your players away for the day and you want to put the main story on pause. I will tell you how I used these quests, but of course you're welcome to make any changes that you see fit. If you need to make some adjustments to make it fit in more with your campaign, then go nuts. Be as creative as you like. Number 1, the timekeeper. The players are making their way through the woods, en route to their next destination. Suddenly, the player with the highest passive perception smells something unusual on the air. The spellcasters of the group may, with a good roll, identify the smell as being a mixture of ingredients often used in spells and potions. Investigating the source of the smell, the group will find a small wooden stone cabin, pouring oddly coloured smoke from the chimney. Investigating through the window would require stealth, but reveal a large cloaked dragonborn inside, working over a desk by the dim light of some candles. Should the group make themselves known, they will meet Yaren. Yaren is quite skittish, very suspicious of the newcomers, but by no means hostile. Should the players make their way inside, they will see this is, for the most part, a humble home. Although on closer inspection, the far corner seems to be dedicated to some form of sorcery or ritual. Books and arcane materials are spread over desks and shelves. Yaren also spends this time frantically trying to block the furthest wall from view. If the players do manage to look around the Dragonborn or convince him to move, they will see a stone table holding the long dead remains of another Dragonborn. Convincing Yaren to explain himself will reveal to the players that he is a wizard. Yaren has been toying with temporal magic to try and return his departed wife's body to a point in time when she was alive. Now, any mention of necromancy at this point in the story will make Yaren very defensive. He is adamant that necromancy is something he is explicitly avoiding. That's a form of magic that even he isn't comfortable with. From his perspective, he's not trying to bring his wife back from the dead, but rather reverse her death from having happened entirely. Ultimately, Yaren will ask one of the players, preferably a spellcaster, to help him with his spell. Most players would be suspicious of the DM here, so if they refuse to help with the spell, Yaren will become hostile. He'll refuse to let any of the players leave until they help with his spell and make it work, no matter how long that takes. This will result in a fight, and I've actually made a stat block for Timekeeper Yaren as well. You can find a link in the description below. You can adjust his hit points and damage to match your party's level, of course. If one of your players does decide to help Yaren, then what happens next is up to the DM. Maybe the spell doesn't work and out of frustration Yaren refuses to let them leave until he gets it right and a fight breaks out anyway. Maybe it does work, but it creates something even worse. Maybe now the players have to fight both Yaren and the creature that they've created. Yaren still trying to stop the players from destroying the remains of his wife. Maybe the players could convince Yaren to see sense and help them put an end to this thing that they've created. Or maybe, with some very, very good dice rolls, you could have the spell work. Maybe you give everyone a happy ending and the temporal magic actually does what Yaren intends and it brings his wife back. No matter which way the players go, I think a nice little reward for them for this side quest could be Yaren's ring. A ring that they'll see him toying with during their conversations, and if they fight him, that they'll see him use. And I've also made a little magic item stat block for that one as well. It does have some pretty fun side effects that could make for some very interesting story moments with your players. So that there is the Timekeeper. Let me know what you think, or how you would change it for your campaign. Number 2, the mysterious note. So this one relies a lot more on the player's smarts rather than their ability to fight. Fireball is not recommended. This one works especially well in a city environment. This one's actually also really fun if you find that your players are getting way too comfortable with taking a lot of long rests just to get themselves back up to 100%, but not really taking any care with having someone keep watch, or basically they've forgotten that something can happen during a long rest, even if they are in an inn or a tavern. Your players wake up to find everything except the clothes on their backs missing. One of the players will find a note telling them to come to a hidden spot of the DM's choosing, depending on the location. Now the players will be keen to get their stuff back, so they should go straight there, and they'll quickly find themselves severely outnumbered by a shadowy group of assassins. The leader is named Sand, short for the Sandman, due to how many people he's put to sleep. Sand will let the players know that they can have their belongings back, no problem, if they simply deliver a letter to an important person. Admiral Unari, who happens to be giving a public address at the city docks at this very moment. Sand does give them two simple rules. It needs to happen right now, and no one but Admiral Unari can read the letter. Not the players, not the guards, no one. If they should break one of these rules, they will face dire consequences of the DM's choosing. Now the players could simply decide to pull off a heist to get their stuff back from this shadowy organization, but they would be doing so without any weapons, items, or spell focuses. That could be a fun challenge in itself. However, if they choose to deliver the letter, they will find Admiral Unari speaking to a large crowd of civilians about the recent rise in pirate activity. The crowd is very worked up, yelling out questions and insults. Clearly they have no faith in the Admiral, and if the players listen closely, they may even hear some whispering, some suspicions of the Admiral's corruption. Some of these people think that he is working with the pirates, a piece of information that could be used by the players if they wish. The Admiral is pretty heavily guarded, all of which would be pretty cautious of giving a random note to their Admiral from a group of strangers. The guards will tell the group to make an appointment and come back later. The Admiral is busy. There's also the very real danger that any one of the guards could decide to read the note first. How your players pull this off is wide open. There's a ton of ways to go about this, which honestly is the best part. One of my players got kinda lucky, and he actually had the noble heritage background, so that helped in getting him a private audience with the Admiral, and after some very, very lucky dice rolls, he succeeded in getting the job done. The Admiral read the note, seemed a bit frustrated but very nervous, and stormed off. The implications of this note comes completely down to the DM and how they want to take the story going forward. One of my other players also convinced a very nosy guard who was very interested in what had upset his Admiral so much. My player convinced them to mind their own business, again with some very lucky dice rolls. When the players return to Sand, they'll get their belongings back and be sent on their way, or maybe they don't. It's up to you as the DM, but don't go too hard here if you decide to have the shadowy organization fight the players, because they don't have any items, weapons, or spell focuses, so give them a few ways to get around this. That is the mysterious note. Number 3, the one behind the veil. So this is just a quick one that I decided to use when I had a player or more away for a session and I didn't know how to account for their character not being present. In most cases the DM will just play those characters, but I kind of wanted a bit of a different way around that. I decided to have that absent player vanish in a flash of blue light at the start of the session, leaving no trace or information for the players to investigate further. Being that the actual players around the table knew that that person behind that character wasn't there today, they thankfully didn't dig into it too much. I think they kind of saw what I was trying to do here. So you would just play the rest of the session like normal. But at the start of the next session, when that player is back, I dedicated about 5 to 10 minutes to that returning player finding themselves transported to a mysterious void-like plane of existence, accompanied only by a mysterious blue silhouetted stranger. The stranger let them know that they've been watching them for some time and needed to test the character to see if they are the right one. So at this point you can run any type of puzzle that you wish, be that a small non-lethal combat encounter, something that requires a bit of smart thinking, or something that'll build a bit more intrigue for the players. have that character do a bit of a morality test to see how they would respond in an ethical dilemma. Whatever you choose, just make sure to keep it a bit short so that all of the other players at the table aren't sitting there doing nothing for a long time. Succeed or fail, that character will eventually be returned to the other players, but the stranger will leave them with some cryptic musings about how interesting their efforts were. The best part of using this stranger over the course of a long campaign is that you can keep having them pop up, or maybe just briefly being spotted in the peripheral vision of one of the character's eyes. That's something I would do like every 2 or 3 sessions, just to remind the party that there's this weird stranger that's plotting something and they have no idea who he is or what it's about. This will build up a ton of intrigue and mystery for your players. What does the stranger want? Why are the players being tested? Is the stranger dangerous? So for me, the stranger, who I titled He Behind the Veil, ended up making a pretty big return at the very start of the next campaign. All of my players wanted to try running some new characters, so their original characters, the original group who had first started seeing the stranger pop up, mysteriously vanished in a wave of blue light. And I have plans towards the end of this campaign to reveal exactly why, and it should have major implications on the story and the world. The stranger's intentions will soon be very clear. So there you have it, 3 ideas for keeping your players entertained when you've got people who can't make it. Or maybe you've got new players who just want to see what they're in for. I would love to hear your filler session ideas or how you deal with players not being at the table. Let me know in the comments below, or hey, let me know how you would change any of these 3 ideas for your campaign. Thank you so much for watching, especially for watching the whole video. If you're a D&D fan like me, then I would love it if you stick around. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, but in the meantime, let your DM know that I said you can roll with advantage. Have a good one. Catch ya.